it seems that a spirit of prophecy, a spirit of judgment is coming down. Is this just the beginning of it, or is this all there is? I don't know. But yesterday I came across a book called The Lost Book of ENKI. And I found it on the internet. I was looking for something to listen to when I ate, and it was an audiobook. And I said, well, what is this? It sounds like another type of Gilgamesh, or what we're doing now. If we ever get to the poems, I was ready to preach it today, the first poem. Okay, we'll get to it, brother. Maybe it's this very message that's stirring up this high spirit. You know? So I listened to it, and I said, well, listen to that. It sounds a lot like what we're doing now between Gilgamesh and the Lord of Arata, these Lugalbanda messages, poems. And I'm listening to it, and a couple of things didn't sound, I just didn't sound right to me. So I checked it out on the internet. I typed in the name of the book, and I found out that, well, let me tell you this first. I've known for years, I know little bits about a lot of things. I know a little bit about a lot of things. I know that a lot of people in the country today believe that our ancestors were astronauts, that the human race are the seed of the astronauts. And I never believed that, but I know that a lot of people believe it. I've heard about the Anunnaki. I've even preached a little bit about them. You know, and I actually heard about Zechariah Stitchins. I know I've heard about Zechariah Stitchins. But I know a little bit about a lot of things. So Zechariah Stitchins, he was, I don't know if he's still alive. I really don't know. I'm saying he was a researcher. He found some clay tablets in the Middle East somewhere and translated them, and he wrote books. So I thought he was like these other people, you see. Now, if you look at these notes that I gave you today, book 3, you'll see that a lot of this book 3 is the actual language. Like, I just happened to open to page 8. It's the foreign language. It's the foreign language that was translated. Okay, this is, well, I'm sure it was hieroglyphics, symbols, but these are the phonetic expressions of those symbols that were translated into the book. This is a legitimate author. Okay. These are the fragments, okay? These were fragments that were found with the Dead Sea Scrolls or other tablets. Even if it wasn't a fragment, the person that's translating it has no idea the degree of his own of the accuracy of his own understanding. He discovers the language. He discovers some clues. How to start translating the language. It's up in the air, but it's basically what I'm trying to say. This is true of the book of Enoch also. The men that have translated, I think it's all men, have translated the book of Enoch. You have to try the spirit on the book, because the man that's doing that translation, it's not written out for him that he understands everything. He has to look at. It's like looking at an interlinear text. You look at a whole bunch of words and you have to make sense out of it. That's what I do with the interlinear text. There has to be a spirit on you, giving you the understanding, pulling all those pieces together to an understanding that you can express in logical sentences. So I know that, but this man, Zechariah Stitchins, he took these. But you're supposed to be doing the best you can to write down or to translate an accurate translation of what you see in front of you. That's why when I do it, if I amplify it, I tell you that I put the word in brackets, I amplified it. But you're supposed to be doing the best you can to report accurately to people that don't understand that language. That's why this man, whose book we're reading today, that's why he has the whole text, the phonetic expression of the hieroglyphics, to show you this is what it said, just in case you understand that language. This is what it said, and this is what he made out of it. So that's how you can get different versions of the Book of Enoch, but they're all similar. The core is there because of the little fragments, but the different people that write the book or that put the fragments into logical sentences, it's not exactly the same because they have to put their own creativity in it to do that. So you just assume that if somebody's writing another book, the Lost Book of ENKI, and it sounds so similar to this, the same languages, I see the same spiritual principles in it, and then all of a sudden he's talking about an astronaut. And you start thinking, well, did he really find a lost tablet with hieroglyphics talking about astronauts? That's amazing. I don't know that I could believe that the tablet actually said astronaut. So I went looking on the internet, and I found out that it didn't say that. That this man, Zecharia Sitchin's, he took the fragments, that he found, and he wrote a novel. He didn't do his best to make a logical sentence out of what he found. He made the logical sentence and added, and I believe, again, brother, I know a little bit about a lot of things. I think he had a spirit guide from what I said. He's written like 15 books. The guy must, if he's still alive, he must be very wealthy now. He wrote, I think 12 books he wrote. And he wrote it in the same genre. Sounds like prose, the same language, the same format as the other books of writers who are legitimately trying to do the best they can to translate what they found as accurately as possible. He took the fragments and wrote a novel about it, and I think I read somewhere that it was dictated to him. And that's how the word astronaut got in there. That spirit guide that was giving him the translation told him that they were astronauts. So I actually spent several hours yesterday looking at this book, The Lost Book of ENKI, and then I wake up this morning and I have to go back to this book, and I was sort of, I hope it's not, the Lord doesn't see it as complaining. I'm not complaining. I like to do the best job that I can do. And I said, Lord, how am I supposed to do this? I spent several hours yesterday, and it was all on the Lost Book of ENKI. Now I wake up this morning, and I'm trying to refresh my memory on the Lord of Arata, and I'm just trying to go with the Spirit. I just really need help. I don't know how to do all this. And this is what the Lord said to me. He said, our job is to expose error. Part of our job is to expose. It's nice that we study here, and we have a good time studying passages that we like, but we have work to do. We're a working company. We have work to do here. We're not just here to learn. We have work to do. And for whatever the Lord's reason, he took yesterday as the opportunity to introduce me to this Lost Book of ENKI and to expose it to me, and I am now exposing it to you, that it is an irresponsible work of someone that has taken some truth, if these tablets that he found are true, and I saw truth in it, and he's made a novel out of it, but he doesn't explain that to the people. And when I looked further, I found a review that actually said this. It's a dishonest work. And there are now thousands, if not millions, of people today that believe that our ancestors, that we're the descendants of astronauts from a work of fiction. It's a work of fiction. He didn't find an ancient tablet that said astronaut. He mixed the truth with the lie, and he sold it as the truth. And maybe he didn't deliberately go out to deceive, but the average person that reads the book thought it was true, and now it's all over the country, if not all over the world, that astronauts are our ancestors, and that the astronauts seeded us, and they had 2001 Space Odyssey, which was promoting that principle. This is where the lie that our ancestors were astronauts got started with Zecharia Sitchin. So now we have a prophecy concerning Charles Holzhauser, and now the Lord's exposing the truth about I don't know Zechariah Stitchin. I don't know him from Adam. I had heard, I know a little bit about a lot of things. I had read somewhere that his work has been debunked, that he wasn't legitimate. And I said, Zechariah Stitchin, he wasn't legitimate. This is like over the last couple of years. And then I think even more recently, because I'm always looking for something to listen to when I want to relax on the YouTube, and listening to this one man, and he was saying, yes, I'm preaching, I'm telling you that what I'm telling you comes from Zechariah Stitchin's, and if you heard that he was debunked, don't you believe him, that his work is accurate. So I said, just a couple of months ago, I said, oh Lord, isn't that interesting, because I don't really know that much about Zechariah Stitchin's, but I did hear that his work was debunked, and now I hear someone saying that it's accurate. So we have a controversy here, and that was the last I thought about it. It just got filed in there. See, got filed in my brain. And today, I'm here to tell you that, in my opinion, that it is unconscionable what he has done, and that he's deceived and seduced thousands, if not millions, of people that don't have the wherewithal or the willingness to search it out for themselves, but just choose to believe it because it sounds good to them. What also is interesting is that his first book was written in 1980. 1980. So what does that say to me? This ministry started in 1988. What the Lord said to me, or the word in my heart was, if the book was published, the first book was published in 1980, when did this start? 1970, 1975. The Lord targeted me at that time for this job. In other words, when the Lord sees something that needs to be corrected, he may first go and cause someone to be born that's going to respond to that error. So this man was already getting this message in 1975, published his first book in 1980. And somewhere around 1975, around that time, the Lord picked me and started to train me up, and you all came in later, to expose the truth. Now, brethren, there is just no way that you can recognize error in a book like that unless you already know the truth. You have to have the doctrine of Christ. I've been teaching you this for years. Now, the man that was debunking him, he was debunked on the basis of someone who is in the loop enough to know that what these books say is not in the tablets. Now, how many people can read hieroglyphics on clay tablets? So there's a very small group of people that are familiar with the clay tablets that know, well, that's not what the clay tablet said. I mean, he has just embellished like 100 words to a single hieroglyphic. He's just made a whole story out of this. There's nothing about astronauts on those clay tablets. What is on the clay tablets is the same archetypes as we have in the Doctrine of Christ. And I don't know how far the Lord wants me to go with that book, so I'm sitting there this morning, Lord, I haven't even gotten to the first poem of Arada yet, And so he said to me, just expose this today, just expose this, and finish what you're doing with the poems on Arada. There are 14 volumes of the book of ENKI alone, and then he has 12 books. I said, Lord, what do you want me to do? And I wouldn't say it was a dirty spirit. I didn't think it was a dirty spirit, and I've explained that to you. Dirty spirits or clean spirits. It's just that it's a novel. He wrote a novel. It's not a history book. It sounds just like the poems that we're reading, which are basically history, basically historical. The poems I'm trying to get to for several weeks now. It reads the same way, but it's a novel. So I can't even imagine him wanting me to read all of it. But so that's what I was doing yesterday. But I have to come out and finish. I have to finish where I start, or I'll have you all crazy, and I'll be crazy myself. So that's another thing. There seems to be a spirit moving, a spirit of judgment, a spirit of exposure. and I'm telling you about it. It was the little bit that I heard. It was just, I thought I'll just tell you this. It was very interesting. I'll tell you why it was so interesting, because well, I heard this too, brethren. Maybe you heard it also. That these ancient astronauts came here. They came here looking for gold. I've heard this, and for the first time I heard it, I said, "Oh, that's crazy that they came here and they're mining for gold, and they created the human race to be slaves. To mine for the gold for them." I never believed that. That just made no sense to me at all. But I know it goes in this ear, it goes out that ear, and until the Lord says focus on it, it goes in this ear and it goes out that ear. Well, I'm listening to this audio book and I'm saying, no, the gold, it has to represent something of value. It's not the metal gold as we know gold. You've got to understand that you can't take every word literally in these books. You're going to really mess your brain up, And then they're looking for the gold under the sea. That was what blew me away. They came from another planet, and they're looking for the gold under the sea. Well, who went down under the water looking for salvation? Who went down under the water looking for salvation? Gilgamesh, absolutely. Gilgamesh tied stones to his feet. He went down to the bottom of the sea, and for Gilgamesh, the salvation was in the form of a plant. So in the lost book of ENKI, they're calling it gold, and he's talking about mining gold. Well, maybe the clay tablets, maybe they said something about gold, but I don't believe they said they were mining for gold. And someone who has some scientific knowledge revealed that, there's something about gold, about the metal gold. There's something about it that it can be used to enhance the atmosphere. So these Anunnaki that were coming from a planet where the atmosphere was drying up and they weren't going to be able to live there very much longer. But with gold, they could sow the atmosphere with gold and restore the atmosphere of their planet. Brethren, I want to tell you, have you heard about Nibiru? Have you heard about Nibiru? That's all part of this whole thing. You want to know what Nibiru is? Nibiru is the spiritual world that is dying because Adam cut off the Shekinah. Okay? It's the spiritual world of creation that's dying. They can't live there anymore. Okay? They're sinking down into the bottom of the sea. So the gold in the bottom of the sea is the fragments of Adam's soul and the human spirit. The gold is the human spirit, brethren. Okay, that's what it is. And it's down at the bottom of the sea with the fragments that Adam broke into. See? So now maybe there was some manifestation in the physical world about this Nibiru, but the book was, the little bit that I heard of it, it was really fascinating. And the one thing that really grabbed me was, and of course the names are all different, who I believe to be the Shekinah, and I actually felt it, that she was just in torment because she had been ripped apart. She had been ripped apart, and I felt that was Adam ripping apart from the Shekinah, And so there's a lot of truth that we're being familiarized with, mixed with a lot of fantasy, about the astronauts and this mining for gold and saving the atmosphere of what I call the world of creation. You cannot save the atmosphere of the world of creation, brethren. It cut off from Shekinah. That means Elohim. Remember, Elohim, God, is the unification of the Shekinah and Adam, the Son of God. That union broke. That world is no longer livable, brethren. That world is no longer livable. You must sink. Stop fighting it because you can't change it. You have to sink down to the bottom of the sea with everyone else, not to get the gold and come back up again. That's your new home. And you sink down to the bottom of the sea, and from there you have to reincarnate. The only way back up is to incarnate, not reincarnate, but incarnate in the world of action and go through Jesus Christ. That's the only way back. You see? So the universal message that the Lord is showing us is coming through in that book. But the only proof that it's an error is that the bits of it that are true are revealed by the doctrine of Christ. And anyone reading those books that is not grounded in the doctrine of Christ, it must really be messing up their minds. I said, Lord, what is reading these books doing to the minds of the people? And he said to me, well, look at what happened to the society. It's messing up their minds. Really bad. Because a lot of people believe this stuff. And they have no idea that it's a novel. They think it's the real thing. That was found on the tablets. So we worked this morning, brethren, okay? We brought down judgment on Pastor Holtzhauser's family, I'm sorry to say, but it was the Lord that we did it under the unction of the Lord. And I've now revealed Zechariah Stitchins to you. Where we'll go from there, I don't know, but I would really like to finish what I start, Lord. So I'm hoping to finish this up and get back to A Tale of Two Cities and get to the first book of The Tale of Two Cities. That's my intention today. I have some interesting things to tell you about it. What I believe is a legitimate epic poem from a legitimate ancient culture, and not a novel filled with fantasy mixed with some truth, you know.